How you doing, Kaisa?
Good. How you doing, Marone?
Pretty good. Got a busy day ahead, but excited to dive in and talk about all these things going on in our industry.
So the first topic we have today is Pokemon Unite's reveal is the most disliked video in Nintendo history.
So yesterday, we were pretty excited, but to the apparent dismay of fans everywhere, the Pokemon Company revealed Pokemon Unite, which is a new multiplayer online battle arena in partnership with Tencent. Just a day later, it's reached over 150,000 dislikes on YouTube. This is the most in Nintendo history.
So we were excited about this Pokemon MOBA, or at least about the announcement of Pokemon Unite. And so it's quite a surprise to me that there is so much backlash. And I'm wondering if the Pokemon Company itself should be alarmed by the immediate backlash, because in the YouTube comments, a lot of users were not happy that Tencent's name is on this game. However, I see why Tencent had to put its name on this game, because I don't think a lot of gamers would trust Nintendo with creating a MOBA.
Yeah, I think it's like that double-edged sword, right? On one side, it makes sense. On the other side, it brings a lot of controversy. Because I think people do have an understandable resistance to Tencent and the information that surrounds it, and why maybe something like the international audience of Pokemon could ultimately, in a large portion of that audience, feel reserved to jumping in and getting involved.
Right, and it's interesting because Tencent outright owns Riot Games, and I haven't seen this backlash about Riot Games. I think in a similar situation with Facebook gaming, a lot of people might like Facebook gaming, but they don't like Facebook, and I just thought it was I guess it really stood out to me that there was so much vocal backlash to Tencent when I don't see any backlash to Tencent in regards to Riot. I don't really see, anti-Facebook games and bad Facebook comments. So I'm wondering if there's also a degree of, hey, let's all dislike this video, and then a bunch of people on the internet like to bandwagon on top of that and just kind of troll, in addition to the initial wave of dislikes.
I get that. I think something that kind of surprised me was when I was told that Tencent owned Riot Games. For me, as just a general viewer, as a person who doesn't participate in League of Legends, I didn't know that. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, oh, wow, okay. Now I have a little bit of reservation towards League of Legends and Valorant,
right,
because now I know this information. I think this was one of those scenarios where, had they not put Tencent's name on it, I don't think we would have had this backlash. People would have had to dig for it and find that out. But because it was right alongside with the Pokemon Company, people were like, oh, yeah, this is the company that, to Neon's question, there's controversy surrounding their sharing of information and your privacy with the Chinese government, and why there is concern regarding Tencent and having your personal data.
I agree. If their name wasn't on this, I don't think there would be as much backlash. If anyone in the chat looks up Tencent and their holdings and what companies they own a lot of stuff, but their name isn't really on the forefront of any of it, and you probably wouldn't know that a lot of things are owned by Tencent. So I think putting its name at the front of this video, added fuel to the fire, or educated, these users about that. There's also maybe a degree of the MOBA communities being pretty toxic, at least definitely with League of Legends.
For sure.
And I could see salty MOBA players going into this and being like, oh, you think you're gonna have a MOBA like Pokemon MOBA? Like, yeah, right. Versus, being positive about it and being optimistic. So I think there are a lot of factors at play here.
Yeah, and I would say too, this is, I don't know if you remember this. This is part of the reason I was talking about the concern with Epic Games a few years ago. There was controversy around the Epic Games launcher when some security protocols got broken into, and it was really easy to access your information. The Tencent commentary did come out, like Matty was mentioning, that there's 40% ownership in there. So there was controversy around that, and then the two-factor authentication, and then making sure that you're protected and all that stuff. Epic has really turned that situation 180, which I think that we've commented on. They've done a really good job there. But this is that same, it's that same thorn, right, that people are, once they get pricked by it and they realize that they might get pricked by it again, they're like, I don't know if I want to grab grab this flower. You say it's a flower, I say it's a weed because I see what surrounds it. So, people are just kind of rightfully so in a place of possibly disagreement with this.
I was a little bit surprised that in the YouTube comments, at least, there wasn't the connection made between all these Nintendo accounts hacked and Tencent's involvement in this, just in the broader discussion of security and privacy and, your information that you give to these companies. So I don't know if in the future fans of Nintendo are at all wary because of that, or it's just kind of like, oh, Nintendo doesn't know about security, they know about games, which I understand that outlook, but I don't agree with it. And I'm generally very, pro security, keep your information private, don't give out any information you don't have to or that you shouldn't, kind of vein.
It's also, it's interesting you say that too, because what had just happened with the Switch and 300,000 accounts,
right.
So
an obscene
it's
number.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those like where people are like, there's smoke going on around these things. So I have to assume that there's fires going. How big those fires are they being worked to put out? Are they, something we need to worry about? These are all the questions that now go through. And this kind of goes back to why we talk well about Epic, is the transparency factor. I think some of these companies, the ones who don't want to be transparent about things, for me, it's always that, well, what are you hiding, right?
Right.
It's like the information we don't know is the information that is, in my opinion, more dangerous. So right now, you're going to get a larger portion of people. And I think I'm actually curious, can we find out where those dislikes are originating from? Right.
Right, where they're originating from, maybe even, I'm curious as to if this is maybe a region-specific thing where maybe in the US, there's maybe a really bad view of Tencent, but in other countries, I'm not sure, how the public views Tencent. I think going forward, at least for, the Western market, or at least for the US market, I think that Nintendo is going to remove Tencent from its advertising. But I do think that if they, just don't put the name on there, I think a lot of people will forget that Tencent is a big part of this.
Absolutely. And because this game works, you know what I mean? Like when you really look at it, you see it in action, you understand how it evolves as a game and obviously as an experience. Like this is a great idea.
Right.
I don't know if it's the game itself.
Such a good game. It looks like it's going to be such a good game.
Yeah, it looks like fun. But I think one of the things now that we're seeing is living in a time where people are like, I'm not going to be silent about the things that I feel I have concerns and worries about. So I'm going to express them. And if you just go and you look at the videos and you look at the comments, you can find out amongst language you're probably not going to like, or is, going to raise an eyebrow or such. You'll see the commonality amongst the disagreement.
Right. Do you think it's the responsibility of gamers to know what corporations fund or own their favorite games? Because for me, I think that consumers should try to be aware and, take precautions as they can. But if anyone's seen the TV show The Good Place, there's this theme of sometimes you try your best and maybe you'll still end up giving money to a company that's not good, but you kind of, did what you could have done in that situation. You're the best that you could do.
I think your point's a strong one, because I think kind of what we're in with the gaming industry is sort of like what we saw with the food industry early on, is like we're still a little early and we're trusting the people who is giving us this thing to consume. We don't necessarily know all the ingredients that make up this thing that we're consuming, and we don't necessarily know who the manufacturers are behind this thing that we're consuming. And kind of, it takes, I don't know, a few decades before people start to realize this is harming me, or I don't like what it is that I've been consuming. So now we might actually just be faster in that stage because of social media and because of how we behave on the internet and interact with each other, that we're talking about this stuff sooner than we did with something like the food industry that now is highly regulated. They give a lot of information, and you do get a chance to know where this is coming from, who's involved, who's distributing. So I think we're kind of in that space right now with the gaming industry.
I think there's also a lot of gray area when it comes to supporting a company. So, for example, there was the whole boycott Blizzard hashtag that was trending last year, and a lot of people were saying, "Hey, well, Blizzard as a company did a terrible job, but like the developers that actually worked on the games that you like have no involvement in that." And so, some people are faced with the question, "Well, do I still support this game because I want to support the developers, or but because the Blizzard name is stamped onto it, am I supposed to stay away from this?" So I think that gamers should, face that question.
That's another strong point as well too, because it makes me think of the NFL. It makes me think of the
Hmm.
controversy surrounding Colin Kaepernick and the whole kneeling and everything, and that just
Right.
mainly being the players that were in agreement with this person's opinion and choice. It was
Hmm.
mostly the owners that
Right.
were the ones, against it, and the organization that was against it that now has flipped 180 to it. Do you punish the players for that? You know what I mean? Like, is
Hmm.
it their fault? Is it the coach's fault? As you were just saying, it's like, where do we? And this is just the hard part of this whole situation in general. Is where is that line? We don't know, so we should talk about it because we need to find it so we're all on the same page. At least
It
that's what
sounds like a good idea for a podcast, The
I.
Morality of Gaming.
Right there you
What's
go.
up,
That's
King
great.
James?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
King James.
What's up?
Yeah.
Um, so moving on to our next topic, Marvel's Avengers is a next-gen launch title with a free upgrade.
So, when the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X launch this holiday season, Marvel's Avengers will be one of the games immediately available to play. Publisher Square Enix announced yesterday alongside the amazing live stream that we watched and live reacted to.
Marvel's Avengers is scheduled to debut September 4th on Google Stadia, PlayStation 4, Windows PC, and Xbox One. People who buy the game on the current gen consoles will be able to upgrade to the next gen version, whether from PS4 to PS5 or Xbox One to Xbox Series X, at no additional cost. This upgrade will apply for both physical and digital copies, at least on PlayStation, said developer Crystal Dynamics in a PlayStation blog post.
Squeenix also said that players will be able to transfer current gen save files to next gen consoles so they can maintain their progress. In addition, the game's multiplayer component will support cross generation play, but only within the console's families PS4 and PS5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series X.
Gary Snethin, Chief Technology Officer at Crystal Dynamics, provided some details in the PlayStation blog post on the enhancements that the PS5 version will offer, along with the inspected increases in detail and texture resolution and improvements to existing rendering techniques, such as ambient occlusion and anisotropic filtering. And I looked at both of these. And ambient occlusion is pretty much kind of how the light affects
Yes.
around certain objects. And anisotropic filtering is, let's say, diagonal lines looked at from a perspective, and
Right.
they're clear. So the PS5 version will feature a variety of new graphics features, such as stochastic screen space reflections, and this means randomly generated kind of particles in those reflections with contact aware sharpening, said Snethin.
And then, of course, the PlayStation 5's high speed SSD will allow for nearly instant loading, according to Snethin. And Snethin went on to say this: as Iron Man flies through content rich levels, higher resolution textures and mesh will stream instantly, maintaining the highest possible quality all the way down to the horizon.
PS5 players will have the choice of playing Marvel's Avengers in an enhanced graphics mode, which aims to achieve the highest image quality possible, presumably with a frame rate of 30 frames per second, or a high frame rate mode, which targets 60 FPS with dynamic 4K resolution, according to Snethin.
So, knowing that there is a wait until the next gen console launch to get the next gen version of Marvel's Avengers, are we willing to wait? Or, is this an instant, well, I'm just going to purchase it on PC?
I think I'm only willing to wait if I'm still too busy with Miles Morales and probably maybe still playing Ghost of Tsushima, even though that's more of a current gen title for this game. Else, if I wanted to play immediately, then it would be a PC buy, and I wouldn't wait for it. What about you?
It's tough because it's coming out around the same time that a lot of games are gonna drop.
Mm-hmm.
I think, for me, the biggest interest that I have in this game is the online mode.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I'll see the longevity for me to want to play, is that experience. So if I have to wait a little bit, that means there'll be more characters by the time I jump into the game, because they did announce that that will be a steady upgrade. And
Mhm.
like you mentioned, these other games that are coming out that I'm excited about, like Ghost of Tsushima, I'll probably be, deeper into those storylines and finish them out before jumping into my next single player experience or superhero type game.
There are too many good titles coming out right now. It's hard to pick and choose which one I'm going to play first. But I'm thinking that the lack of cross-platform play for Warzones is kind of a big disappointment for me, at least, because
Yeah.
with these kinds of fun multiplayer modes, I want cross-platform play. And if it's not going to be available in the future, then I'm probably just going to buy this on whatever maybe my friends will also be playing on.
Yep. As much as I might have my, displeasures with a game like Call of Duty, one of the amazing things about it is that there is the cross-platform play. So a friend of mine that still plays on Xbox and Xbox One, I can play with him via PC, and the same for like my brother who wants to play and he plays on PS4. We can all be in the same lobby together playing, and there's no error happening when that occurs. The fact that that's really not going to be there for this kind of experience is something there, I hope, going to update quickly and make sure that it is taken care of ASAP, because the moment the new consoles
Mhm.
drop, I think there's going to be a lot of people upset. I can't play with someone on the PlayStation 5 though I'm on the
Right.
4, and I can't play what's happening here.
I think you might be able to play on the with the 5 if you're on the 4. There's cross
Sorry, I meant the
intergeneration,
Xbox
right? But
Series.
but the
That's what I meant.
Xbox
Sorry,
Series
yeah.
X and PlayStation 5. And if you're
Yeah.
playing on Stadia, I mean, I hope you're in a circle where you have a lot of Stadia friends and Stadia players. Else, you might just be soloing these Warzone modes.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting bit of data to take a look at. How many people on Stadia are going to be rocking out to some of this game and having fun together on it?
So sad. I don't know if maybe there's a big Stadia community I just haven't tapped into. Community building is very important in the world of video games.
Yeah.
So now that we've had a full day to recover and reflect on yesterday's huge unveiling of Marvel's Avengers, what are some things we're excited about that we didn't get to mention during yesterday's live reaction?
Hmm.
And chat
No.
too, if you had anything that you thought was particularly cool. I'm still impressed with the level of detail that went into all of the combat.
Yeah.
And you can have so many different combat styles within a certain hero, and even within that you can build them differently. So,
Yeah.
your Hulk is going to be different from someone else's Hulk. And even within those differences, you can also play them very differently.
Yeah, I wonder too with the base, because Kai brings it up, and I was like, I like the base building aspect as well. It's just a fun little like downtime thing to do. How
Mhm.
far does that go? Like,
I was
do
thinking the
I
same
if
thing.
you and I were to play, do I go to your base and it looks different, and you've got your version of that same base, or
Mhm.
is it just like it's all the same base for everybody? Just some people might have unlocked it more in certain areas than others, and that's what makes it look different.
I think that was my impression of it when they talked about the base in the live stream. It was kind of like it getting nicer and nicer, and there are more things unlocked and unlocked,
Yeah,
but they didn't really hint at any specific differences in the base.
yeah.
All your bases belong to us.
What an iconic statement in gaming.
I'm also really glad that Miss Marvel is in this game. I thought that was cool, the introduction of a maybe lesser known hero, because I
Yeah.
didn't know about her. I haven't seen her a lot in the lore. And she's a Muslim character, and I think she might be the first Muslim superhero in Marvel, or at least one of the very few.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is I wonder what their turnaround time on new characters is going to be, because how many like for example, seeing her in action, makes me want to see, you know, Ant-Man in action.
Mhm. Right.
Um can
Wasp.
Ant-Man work? Is it possible to watch him go from being a giant to being really tiny? And if they could figure that out and make that happen where you're playing that in a game,
That would be cool.
that would be mind blowing. So, and of course, there are other characters that you're like, you guys got the Marvel's name on there. Who else are you guys going to crank in that makes this a lot of fun?
Right. It seems like an incredible amount of detail goes into each specific hero. So adding new heroes seems like it's a big undertaking for them. And I wonder how often they're going to be coming out, if there will be a lot of them, how long is this game going to be supported in the long run? Maddie says, I'm personally waiting for Batman.
Makes sense. I think that's going to be pretty big as well. It's going to be hard to
Get them DCs in there
to compete. This might actually be the first time that we see a strong competition between like DC gaming titles and Marvel gaming titles.
Yeah.
As Marvel is now really getting into outside of Spider-Man, trying to develop a game that is very strong on its own. And from what we've seen as we've been talking about, I think is going to be a pretty strong game on its own.
That's true. There have been a lot of DC games. The Batman games were incredible, but there haven't been a lot of Marvel video games. And this is a really big title coming out. As a DC fan, even if this is a cool video game, I agree that I'm still Team Harley Quinn. And I think that even a bad game with Harley Quinn, I would prefer over to this, but this game still looks super cool.
Yeah, I think people who appreciate both can have a wonderful time playing the Suicide Squad game when that drops and playing some Marvel's Avengers and moving back and forth. I'm really happy to see how far comic books have grown and just saturated almost too much in some regard. But they've definitely transitioned into games that were like Iron Man VR that we've been talking about as well. Just pure excitement that these games are looking to be so much fun.
It's a good time to be a superhero fan. That's for sure.
Yep. Well, the next story that we have for you is that Apex Legends, as we speculated on yesterday, is to have a soft launch on mobile starting in 2020.
According to EA CEO Andrew Wilson, Apex Legends is scheduled to soft launch on mobile devices by the end of 2020.
So as it was recorded at Apex Latest on Twitter, Wilson was speaking about the mobile business growth on the EA Fireside Chat. We talked about this yesterday and said, quote, "We have Plants vs. Zombies 3 in soft launch. We talked about having Apex Legends in soft launch by the end of this year. You've heard me talk about 6 or 7 other games in various stages of incubation or production or in the filing phase. We feel very good about our mobile business."
If Apex Legends does indeed soft launch on mobile, which would most likely be a beta of sorts, it will be the third storefront that Apex Legends arrives on in 2020 alongside Nintendo Switch and Steam.
And Apex Legends will also be released on Switch and Steam this fall, with cross-play between those platforms, and all other current versions of Apex Legends will also be enabled. There is no word if cross-play will be available in the mobile version of Apex Legends.
So Apex Legends on Switch was already kind of a head scratcher for us. So Apex on mobile feels like even more of a stretch. What do we feel about this game coming to mobile?
I'm skeptical. I don't know if this is going to be the same game in action. It just doesn't feel like it's going to transition well to the mobile space, like without a controller or mouse and keyboard. I just feel like this shooter is extremely fast. It has a lot of elements to it that you do need a full-fledged controller. And then to just maintain how fast this game is on mobile, I mean, I wonder if it'll go like full-on cel-shaded for the mobile experience in order to maintain that frame rate.
Maddie says the FPS on mobile is tough, and COD Mobile is a completely different game, which might explain the huge popularity of Call of Duty Mobile. I know that PUBG Mobile is also really popular as well. I really struggled with playing games on mobile. I tried mobile Fortnite, and it was nearly impossible for me to play.
Wow.
And then I was told that I would have to play with my hands like this on the touch screen. And I'm like, I'm out. I don't think I could do this. This isn't the game for me.
At that point, your view is this.
Yeah, at that point you can't see
Somebody
anything.
Get a magnifying glass. Somebody get a magnifying glass. I think I see somebody.
I hope Apex is not going to be like that too. Maybe they're skewing towards, I know younger audiences might be playing on mobile a lot, if they don't have a PC to play on, they'll be playing on mobile. I don't know how well this is going to do. Either I'm going to be very surprised that it does well, or my expectations are that it's not going to be quite popular.
Yeah, and this kind of plays into the speculation we had that we know like some of these senior members over at Apex Legends team, Respawn left to start their own company.
Mm-hmm.
And they identified that it was to get away from crunch, that crunch culture that we see within games as games crank out and they're not ready, and they really upset an audience right away. It makes me wonder if with announcements like this that kind of make us scratch our heads, could this be some of the reasoning behind those senior members saying, "Hey, we're gonna head out and go do our own thing."
I think it definitely might have been a contributor. I thought Apex was super cool when it came out. I think it, does a lot of great things. It plays really smoothly. I think a lot of, the content that they put out, I've described the new season trailers where it's someone like running and gunning and the gunshots line up to the music and it's super cinematic and it's really impressive. I think those are things that Apex Legends does really well. But there is also this aspect of, going to mobile. What does that mean for their strategy? And I'm still not over their incredibly long ad at the Game Awards where they had like someone like one of the heroes or the legends like fake call in, and there was this like big long skit about Apex Legends, and I was just thinking like how much obscene amounts of money did they pay to get this spot, and is this going to have any payoff? So to me it feels like executives who might not really understand video games trying to make a lot of money off of this game and seeming a bit out of touch, but maybe I'm just overly critical.
You might be onto something, because even in, the film industry, you meet people who've been in it for a while and they'll identify that when new money comes in or big money steps in, there's a disconnect sometimes from those people that don't necessarily know what works.
Mm-hmm. What resonates with gamers.
And that can create conflict. There are many stories that we can look into and find that even over in the music industry as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we just might now be getting a bigger taste of that, because look how big gaming has become. I mean, we really are just from the 80s, early 80s to now, and it's 1/7 of the world's population are gamers. So, right. I mean, that's pretty fast in like 30, 40 years of just becoming that massive of a population of an entire industry.
Absolutely. I don't know if mobile will, add to maybe some Apex Legends hype. I saw there's a lot of hype about the new season, about the new legend. There's a current, super fun game mode that's happening now about like treasure hunting.
Yeah.
That looks really cool. I don't know if that is bringing in any new players to Apex or just mostly keeping, its core audience engaged with new content there. And I'm curious to see where Apex Legends goes, because right now Warzone is a huge monster for them to compete against, and Fortnite has been doing well as always.
Yeah, I mean, I can't stop playing it. Like I'm nonstop in it, and now I've been streaming it more. So yeah, it makes sense that they're trying to go that hard in this game and do whatever they can to make their community grow.
Definitely.
But something that I think we've been waiting for, I know since the announcement of it this morning that we would be doing this on the show, and I maybe saw like a brief moment of a chest being opened. Is what I saw. I saw a chest get open. I was like, nope, I don't want to see any more.
No, don't show me.
The Cyberpunk 2077 stream that dropped today. So just like yesterday's Marvel's Avengers War Table stream, we're gifted today with a huge chunk of Cyberpunk 2077's live event.
So let's dive right into the Cyberpunk 2077 Night City Wire live stream and give our live reactions with all of you in chat. And stick around for our instant reactions after the stream as we unpack what happens. And everyone, welcome Matty for live reacting with us.
Oh yeah, yes. I'm crashing the party.
Hell yeah. And that's awesome, Adris. I hope you like the Rocket League life.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Night City Wire, a brand new series from us at CD Projekt Red, where we'll be talking about all things Cyberpunk.
By the way, this is only episode 1. We're going to get a lot of Cyberpunk news.
One of our developers will be joining us to help unpack everything.
She's communications lead.
We'll have some news.
Yeah,
An
or
announcement
community
about
manager, I
secret
imagine.
Collaboration. We'll
I
be
love her
taking a look
accent.
at some brain dance gameplay and welcoming back our developers just to have a chat about everything you're going to see. But there is one more thing. Media all over the world have been getting hands-on with Cyberpunk 2077, and when this episode finishes,
We're
you'll be
media.
able
Can
to
we
go
get
and
it,
check
please?
out
We got left out of the party.
Come on.
Let's get started. It is time to take a look at our brand new trailer, and after that, our lead quest designer Pavel Sasko will be joining us because I've got a feeling you're going to have a few questions after watching this. So, let's take a look.
Oh boy.
Buckle up.
I love this town. The city of endless opportunity. Ready to get your cherry popped? Yeah, come
Yes.
Oh,
City like any other, just bigger.
on. Nah, mano, not just any other city. Legends.
I don't know about you guys, but like the graphics look much better what they're showing in this presentation than anything we've seen. I think these are like
Yeah.
full-blown next-gen graphics now that
That
we
puts
Yeah.
us in the same league as them.
But we are. They just don't know it yet. But if you got the cojones and you know how to use them, you can do damn
No
near
no
anything.
confirmed multiplayer. Nobody.
Unless you catch a bullet.
Even then, you go out with a bang, right?
You know, you can make heaps more eddies as a motivational speaker.
Yo, Mr. V, a pleasure.
So what's the gig, Dex? You meant to come out in one piece? How about we go over the plan?
There's this prototype tech, a biochip to be precise. Jobs to grab it.
Guessing it belongs to a corp.
Arasaka.
We're robbing some heavy hitters.
Thought you could blackmail me, fucker?
High risk, high reward. First rule of the afterlife.
Ka-ching, baby.
Goes without saying, we do this on the hush. Ideally, no bodies, not a one.
Sounds simple enough.
He's lead, assholes!
is it gonna be dangerous?
Don't you worry, mi amor. We're bulletproof. Get your ass moving now!
What the fuck just happened in there?
Can't stop
Whoa.
thinking Night City.
Fucking major leagues. Happy now, Jackie?
Get up! That's fucking high! Time to bail!
Oh my god, we're so fucked.
Wow.
What the fuck?
Can't risk it, V.
And you, who are you? Fuck.
I hope that's his only line in the whole game.
The trailer contains footage from the game's prologue only, but there was an awful
that's just the
lot in
prologue?
it. So,
Oh.
Pavel,
Wow.
why don't you try and help us unpack everything that we just saw?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely, I can try. So that
might be the coolest zoom background I've ever seen.
Only the prologue
Yeah.
of the game. So that awesome stuff is only happening in the first few quests. What the trailer shows you is really our
Nice
stage,
AirPods.
the Night City. You know, this gigantic city built of 6 completely unique districts.
Did you say the first
surrounded
few
by the
quests?
7
Yeah,
wonders
they
of
said that was
Golden
just a
Valley.
prologue.
As a player, you are meeting Jackie. Jackie's your friend. Now, they together are trying to reach out for something that is very precious. They're trying to reach out for this chip of immortality, this gateway to eternal life.
The prologue?
Jackie introduces you to Fixer Dexter Deshawn. He's a very important person in a social ladder of Cyberpunk. He is able to provide the player with various jobs and contracts to be able to gather money, to be able to modify their bodies, push themselves to the limits, to put their hands on the chip. But as you can expect, not everything goes as planned, and but to see it, you will have to play the game.
There are an awful lot of really cool things in this trailer, and there's a few that I would just love to talk about a little bit more for the people at home. So let's start with talking about a gang called the Mox. Now, we see a few flashes of them in this trailer. I personally think they're really cool and one of my favorites, but can you give us a little bit more information about them?
Oh yes, so the Mox is one of the gangs that player is going to interact with throughout the game. The Mox is the gang that has been formed in 2076 after death of Elizabeth Borden. She was called Lizzie. Now, she was owner of a brothel and former sex worker, and she was protecting working guys and girls from harassment, from abuse, and the gang is really continuing her mission. And as a player, you're going to interact with that gang, meet multiple different NPCs, and craft your own relationship with them, and understand what they are all about.
So earlier on, you did mention a 7th district, a place called the Badlands. Now, we saw a few shots of this in the trailer, but I'd love for you to give us a bit more detail about the district outside of the city walls.
Okay, so The Badlands is this like dead, dried out space going around the whole Night City. And as a player, you'll be able to traverse that space in your car.
It's like Central California in GTA 5.
Yeah.
Or driving to the valley in GTA 5, yeah.
Families, and they're traveling across that space.
It's like just getting outside of
made out
Vegas.
of the cars and motorcycles. And as a player, you'll be
driving
able
was
to
so good.
traverse and access different type of open world content that has been prepared specifically for you to get that awesome feel of the Badlands as an area.
In the trailer, we also saw like a completely metal creature. Now, he didn't look like he was from the Maelstrom gang. This looked like something else. So please tell the people at home, who is this giant metal monster?
Okay, so that big dude, that was Adam Smasher. He has been introduced in pen and paper in Cyberpunk 2020 by our senpai Mike Pondsmith. Adam Smasher is a fully converted cyborg. He is who was always a loyalist of Arasaka. And time has changed, and in 2077 he had to find his own space in Night City. But to find out, you'll have to play the game.
Oh, thank you.
In this trailer, we do see some flashes of a Ripperdoc called Victor Vector.
They keep saying that, and I'm like, we wanted to in April.
They might remember him. But I'd really like for you to give the people at home some more information about what Ripperdocs are and how they'll be interacting with them when they play Cyberpunk.
So Ripperdocs in our game, they are surgeons. They are like a specific type of a job in the social ladder of Cyberpunk. They are accustomed and specialized in replacing limbs.
You can get like black market military
tech. They can basically update your body, enhance your body, change you into this walking war machine. And as a player, you are going to meet different kind of Ripperdocs in the game, craft your own relationship with them. Some of them are like important characters for a story. Through that, you will invest eddies that you're gathering to turn your body into this tool that allows you to survive on the streets of Night City.
Pavel, thank you so much for joining us.
He got one of those Cronuses in his hand.
Because you're going to be helping us to
real
analyze the Braindance gameplay. But before that, we do have some news to share. Earlier in the year, we announced that if you pick up Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox One, you'll be able to play it on Xbox Series X when the console launches. And just in case you missed it, it will be the same for PlayStation players as well. If you pick up Cyberpunk 2077 on PlayStation 4, you'll also be able to play it on PlayStation 5 when the console launches. And that's not all. There will be a free upgrade for Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, but we'll have more details on that soon.
Do they know we reported this news already? Guys, this is all... Come on.
They need to start watching the channel.
Watch Caffeine News, guys.
Welcome back, our developers, for a chat. There is just one more thing we want to announce. Something that we've been working on in secret for a while. We are very excited to announce our partnership with Studio Trigger and Netflix to bring you Cyberpunk Edgerunners, a standalone anime set in the Cyberpunk universe, which we've been working on for some time now. Edgerunners is due to launch in 2022, but for
what other
more
secrets you got,
So this game already has a Netflix show, and it's not even this game's not even out yet.
Wow.
Already has a Netflix show.
Hi, my name is Saya Elder. I am the Japan-based producer for Cyberpunk Edgerunners. What I do basically on this project is that I am a fixer, to put it in the words of the Cyberpunk universe. We are a game company. We are a bunch of nerds, and wherever there are nerds, there's going to be anime fans. So it was always a dream for us to make anime. When we began this project, we were certain that we didn't want to make a recreation of the game. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is a standalone story set in the same universe. The stage is still Night City, but everything else is totally new. New characters, new story. I do like to think that it's going to be a great gateway for newcomers to come and check Cyberpunk game and also the Cyberpunk genre as a whole.
Everyone's so stylish in this.
Right now we're in Nakano, which is one of the biggest anime meccas of the world. I'm going to take you to Studio Trigger right now because we have the wonderful opportunity to talk to the dream team that will be bringing you this anime.
こんにちは。トリガーの代表取締役の大塚です。
監督の今石です。
キャラクターデザインを担当する吉成です。
It is cool. This is like a global effort. This game. It's Europe. It's Asia.
両方に満足していただけるようにアニメを作るつもりです。よろしくお願いします。
今回はその
Yeah, nobody. I agree. They'll definitely have tie-ins.
一番にしか過ぎなかった頃に生まれたジャンル、そういうジャンルのものをまた、時代が何周もして作れるというのが非常に楽しみです。
トリガーも10年ということで、監督に今井氏、キャラクターデザインに吉成というトリガーの最強の布陣で、トリガー10周年にふさわしい作品にしていきたいと思います。お楽しみに。
We won't. We won't.
For the anime fans out there, I guess they worked on Kill la Kill, is one of their big
Now it is time to show you some gameplay of Braindance. This is a feature that you'll experience when you play Cyberpunk 2077. Braindance is essentially a recording of somebody else's experience. It allows you to relive their sense of sight, smell, touch, and even hearing, all thanks to a special device. After the gameplay, I will be welcoming back Pavel Sasko, and will also be joined by Patrick Mills, our senior quest designer and all-round lore master, who will be helping to answer your questions and give you some explanation on how you'll be interacting with Braindance when you play Cyberpunk 2077.
Wow.
So, let's take a look.
I want lore master on my resume.
Do nothing odd.
Yeah.
Don't get creative. You go in, snatch the cash, get out, and we sell the BD to those psycho freaks from the studio.
Got it.
And remember, everything on full blast. They'll spot us extra for a wicked adrenaline high.
Okay, on you go.
Down! Everybody! On the ground! I want to see you kissing the flooring! Money! Now! Or I will fucking drop you! I swear to God! Well, yeah, hey... now! Before I blow your fucking head off!
Ah! Slow, deep breaths. Your cortisol and adrenaline spiked, but the soft activated your hormone blockers. Nothing happened. You're alive and well.
That was too much. Could feel the guy's pain, his stress, his hope. Hope wrapped up in something else.
Mm-hmm. Probably took a booster just before.
I like Judy.
Got everything set up? Let's switch over to editing mode. I'll sever the link to the BD Roller's sensory array. You'll be able to look around freely. Whole scene views. Full cam control in analysis mode, so move around, zoom in and out, whatever else you come up with. Think of it as your own little sandbox. So
That's cool.
analysis mode, you control playback. Can even pause when you feel the need. Then you use the editor console to unpause. Try it.
Plan simple. Do nothing odd.
What a
Don't get
feature.
creative. You go in, snatch the cash, get out, and we sell the BD to those psycho freaks from the studio.
Got it.
Cream as hell, right? Well, that's not all. You can speed things up or rewind, whatever you like. Give it a try. Rewind. Roll it back to the top. All good. Neat. Now try fast forwarding a bit.
Plan simple. Do nothing odd. Don't be creative. You go in, snatch the cash, get out.
Okay. You can also reset the recording. That'll take you right back to the beginning. Try it. Now for some fun. This here's why you came in the first place. In analysis mode, you get to view and even scan details of the enviro recorded by the BD Roller. Focus on the heat, the gun this gonk gets from his buddy at the beginning. Now scan it.
Plan simple. Do nothing odd. Don't get creative. You go in, snatch the cash, get out, and we sell the BD to those psycho freaks from the studio. And remember, everything on full blast. That's why you have to leave it at night.
Okay, right here. Excellent.
Enhance.
Now heads up. In analysis mode, you can ferret out background noise and conversations if the roller got close enough.
Oh.
This tech records everything, every little detail, even the sights and sounds the roller was never aware of. To see the sources of the recorded sensory signals, switch to the audio layer in the editor. Go ahead and try that now. Okay, good.
I hope Rocksteady's watching this and they can implement this into a Batman game.
Choose one and hone in on it.
Yeah.
Or all game developers will give up after this game comes out. And it'll just be Cyberpunk.
Everybody!
So, any thoughts?
Unbelievable. Seriously, like what's happening right next to me.
Yeah, it's how BD recording implants work. They pick up everything, all the elements in the background. Then an editor tweaks them, makes them pop. Keep playing with the sound, explore it a bit. We'll move on when you get bored.
Yeah, a bunch of copycats after this game comes out.
Oh yeah. Kissing the flooring. Money.
Sometimes you can analyze extra layers in the raw. Stuff the roller's cyberware picked up.
Like what?
Ev's got Kuroshi optics that grab infrared, meaning you should be able to grab heat signatures from her recording.
Huh. Hella nice.
Scanning works on peeps too. Walk up to the wounded chick. Try scanning
peeps.
Alright, next thing. Scroll forward to the part where our artist gets a lead injection.
Or I will fucking drop you, I swear to God! Well, now, fucking head off!
See that? They shot him and he never saw it coming. But you will. Here it comes. My favorite part of the game. See the blinking thing over the entrance? Surveillance cam. Must have caught our shooter. You'll see in a sec. Cam feeds to the screen behind the clerk. Roll back to where the screen's in the kid's field of vision, then scan it.
Oh my god.
Guy who was outside?
His own Chumba shot him. Probably planned to all along. Must have got a nice slice of cred on the black market for a BD like this. BD freaks are ready to pay a preem for a real flatline. Anyway, if you've seen
dark.
It, you can exit.
Very dark. Wow.
Yeah, impressive, right?
Spooky.
Too bad most of the BDs we do here are only good for flogging the log.
So Braindance is a pretty big part of the Cyberpunk universe. It's not just something used for adult films. There is an awful lot to it. And there's two sides I'd really like you guys to help me explore. First is the lore, so how this actually fits into the universe. And then there's the gameplay side, so how players will be interacting with it. So Patrick, could you tell us more about the lore of Braindance?
I would love to. So in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, Braindance was invented way back in the early 2000s at UC Santa Cruz. It was developed as a way of recording a person's experiences and then playing them back for someone else so that they could relive them as though it was happening to them. It was originally used for things like therapy and prisoner rehabilitation, but by 2077 it's become this global media industry, including things like movies, mass entertainment, things like that, video games, some interactive things, and of course adult fare as well. Now, in our game, we deal a lot with black brain dances, or XBDs as we call them, and there are different types of those, but the one that you saw in the trailer just there was a flatliner. Now that's where the person recording it actually dies during the recording. And it's popular with sort of an illicit kind of a thrill, but a mercenary can also use them for various things, and you'll see that in the game, of course.
And from the gameplay perspective, we have been working a lot throughout last years trying to figure out the best way how to use the Braindance in the game as a mechanics. So what we have settled on is this Braindance editor mode. As a player, you will be able to run the Braindance in the editor mode and see different clues that have been registered on the peripheral of given actor. Now, as a player, you can slide on the timeline of the recording back and forth, trying to uncover different clues. And that clues are actually telling a story in the game. So as a player, you will run different investigations that will lead you to different mysteries, and you will uncover them actually using that Braindance as a mechanics in the game.
So, as Pavel was saying,
next level.
we use Braindance as a storytelling tool. It's not a collectible. It's not something where you're going to go in and you're going to play it and you're going to be like, I've seen this before. What we use Braindance for is to give you a keyhole into the life of the residents of Night City. And we can explore things like childhood trauma, religion, various philosophical ideas in a way that you might not otherwise experience in a story about a mercenary on the tough streets.
So we've tried to talk about some of the aspects that we think the community will find really exciting, but you know, while you're both here, I'd love to know, what is it about Cyberpunk that you guys are really excited for? Patrick, why don't you start?
So one of the things that I'm most excited about in this game is the characters and the way they interact with the world. We've got this really interesting world that stretches all the way back to the Cyberpunk 2020 source material and all of these events and all of those things, but those don't mean anything unless they connect with characters. And so when we come up with a character, we start with their function. What is this person? What do they do in the story? But we don't stop there. We go back and we figure out, what was their childhood like? What was their upbringing like?
Awesome.
What kind of obstacles did they face in this harsh reality, and did they overcome them? And how did they overcome them, or did they not overcome them, and why? And you can see all of those things in their environment, in their dialogues, in sort of how they operate in the world. And we come up with that for all of our characters. Now, you look at someone like Victor Vector, and you're going to see stories about his past in his environment and in his dialogue. You know, we come up with that stuff even if we don't use it in the game, because it helps inform us as to who these characters are.
And
that's why you're a lore master.
I would not be myself if I would not say that I'm the most excited about our quests. Like with our Witcher 3 team, with Patrick and like everybody that has stayed with us since the Witcher 3 time, we really have grown so much. We have learned so much, and we have used all that experience to put them into the
gunplay
quest
looks
that we have made.
incredible.
And you will not find really a filler in this game. Like everything has a meaning. Like we put so much effort into making sure that everything is rewarding, is interesting, is talking about characters, as Patrick said, is talking about worlds, is talking about emotions, like touching the player in a really, like a real way. And I just can't wait to find out what you think.
Pavel, I know you mentioned story and quests and writing quests, and when I was last in the studio, I had a look and I saw a notebook on your desk, and I would love for you to show everybody this notebook.
Oh, he's got it in his hand already. Look at that.
You asked for it, so...
this notebook over here?
It's magically here.
Salsa quest designer. The reason is because I dance salsa, and I'm a quest designer.
Oh, look at this guy.
So I started this notebook actually when we were really starting Cyberpunk.
Those
At
are
the very
scary
beginning,
notes.
I wrote like the first note, and it says
terrifying.
Pretty much something along the lines of that we were starting with a prototype. And then, you know, I kept on basically noting things that we've been working on for like next year.
writing in like
I remember
hieroglyphics?
once when our concept
It looks like he's like writing and then doing.
and they said that they want to take a look on my notebook. I was like,
They can't see what the notebook
actually,
is.
and they took some pictures, and they told me, yeah, well, you know, because we are looking for a reference material for notes of a psychopathic killer.
Oh, there you go. Hey,
perfect. Yeah, well, you may other maybe some of my.
The other guy looks
No one be
scared.
concerned.
The other guy looks scared right now. The lore master.
This is
Pavel,
some good lore.
Thank you so much for joining me.
What happened
I'm
in
pretty
his
lucky
childhood?
because I have read some of the stories that you and the team have written for Braindance, and I'm pretty excited for people to discover them. But before we do finish today's episode, there is just one more thing we'd like to talk about.
Tell us.
Earlier in this episode, I mentioned that media have been getting hands-on with the opening of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes, you
And
did.
they should be posting their impressions right about now. And if
I
you
will not
missed
be
anything
posting
from
my
today's
impression.
episode, don't worry, we'll be uploading everything to our channels very soon. And finally, on behalf of everybody at CD Projekt Red, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us for this, the very first episode of Night City Wire. But don't worry, we'll be back with episode 2 in just a few weeks. So, we shall see you soon.
Wow.
I need to follow everyone who is in this presentation on Twitter.
So there's one thing that I'm curious about with the brain dance is the one thing they said early on about this game, I think is the one thing that a lot of people are really excited about, is that everybody's playthrough will have its own unique aspect to it. They have allowed you to not play this game. You can play it how you want. You can go do side missions and the world will alter and shift based on how you choose to play and the choices that you make. will those moments with the brain dance be the same way? Like, will we get things that occur that they've just created the brain dance to analyze what happens and then have the clues in it. So each time you play through, you get a different brain dance.
Might also be that the brain dance is what enables that unique playthrough. Like what happens in what you discover in the brain dance then taps into what happens throughout the game, you know, or vice versa too, you know. So
yeah, because they were saying like there are certain people you can actually potentially kill early on and remove them from the story, and the story will continue on without them, just as if it would be in real life, but it has a major effect on what occurs and comes out.
Well, for you, Marone, Witcher 3 you said was your favorite game of all time. How does this, I mean, you've played through the game, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, how does this relate to what they did with Witcher 3 as far as like that kind of storytelling?
I think the storytelling is exactly the same. The big difference there is that The Witcher 3, if you play it again, you're gonna get the same experience, right?
Gotcha.
You're not. You might get a different gameplay experience of like different types of magic and you know what kind of like sword you use or whatever. That'll be different, but overall, it's not as extensive as they're saying that this is. So for me, it only just like it's like, I guess the comparison would be like the Witcher 3 was like this Ferrari, right? And now they're showing this like Ferrari 2077, like all souped up with an engine you've never heard of, you know, like all this stuff.
Or they're showing a garage.
Yeah,
like it's not even a car. This is like a world.
Yeah.
They've done a
You're
good
like,
job
you
with
can
world
live in the
building.
Ferrari now. You can live here.
Right?
It's okay. We've got everything. We've brought snacks.
With the anime and everything, I feel like they've created there's like so much more to this. Like this isn't just a game, it's like a whole universe, you know, it's a whole world of Night City. That's
I also loved this too. I'm curious what's
That's
out in
cool.
there. What's in the desert landscape? Are there secrets? Are there things that they've hidden that are waiting for us, you know, to pop up that you get to now explore? And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the card doesn't stay the same. You get different cards. What is that like? Do you go and buy them? Do you know what I mean? They were showing you get to modify your car. Yeah.
My first
Well, how
thought
far
was,
does that
can
go?
your car break down and you're going to be stuck out
Oh,
in the middle
no.
of nowhere,
Stuck.
like in Red Dead Redemption?
You better get those legs where you could just like run back, I guess. Like, I want the
Yeah.
Forrest
cool.
Gump legs. Can I get those, please?
Yeah, the driving part, like to me, thinks like every piece of media we've seen so far with Cyberpunk, it feels like this is like a dozen games in one. Because the gunplay in itself feels like it feels like BioShock with how grounded it is, but also maybe some Respawn kind of like DNA of like Apex or like Call of Duty as far as like how fluid it is. But then you got the story, then you got the driving, then you got the economy, then you got this like brain dance stuff.
Yeah, and the thing too that I was mentioning, you saw it when you put the modification on the hand, and this stood out to me. One of the last gameplays that they showed is, and he said this, like you'll get relationships with these vendors, but there are some vendors that have access to military tech that if you upgrade yourself with black market military grade technology, you'll stand out in a crowd because they'll notice like you shouldn't have that on you. But if you create a relationship with the military in the game, you can then get a pass on the NPCs who might perceive you having that tech as a bad thing. And I was just like, oh my God, that's so amazing.
It's wild.
Yeah.
I forgot my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say to wrap up, maybe like since we have this great presentation and we've had all of these trailers so far. What are our questions, if we have any left, going into the release date? Like, what other things do we want to know about the game, potentially from this episode 2 that we might get in a few weeks?
I feel like I already know so much more about this game than a lot of games that are coming out in the future. I'm impressed that they've had this, this whole episode where they showed a lot of gameplay, a lot of information, and there's still a lot more to show. I think it's impressive.
Really curious about Keanu Reeves' character, to what extent he plays. I know he's in the character's mind, at least is what it says. And Johnny Silverhand's character has increased exponentially since Keanu put in more interest, and that they even added that because he was interested more in being a part of that. I would also like to know if we could go ahead and get that demo, please. If you could just allow us to have
Oh
that.
no, Marone, just play the game and then you'll see what we're talking about. Just
Yeah,
go, yeah,
exactly.
Just,
I'll
well, you
just
have to
Go
play the
ahead
game.
and play it.
You'll have to just go ahead and
play
play the game. Oh, the game that we've been waiting for that was supposed to be out already. Okay,
That is the
thanks.
one thing I
Yeah.
will say I will take away from this gameplay reveal is like, oh yeah, we were supposed to
yeah, I
be
have
playing
to go-
this in April, but now I have to wait till 5 months from now.
I hope they go more into the lore of certain characters, because what stood out to me was that they said that they really went into the backstory of a lot of characters, you know, and really made them interesting. And for me, if I like the characters in the game or I can relate to them some way, like that's make or break.
Yes.
And I think that's why I didn't like Control, because I had no relation to the main character, and I was just like, I don't
makes
feel
a
for
lot of
you.
sense.
I don't care for
Yeah.
your quest.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm so hyped about this game. This is like we do the stock, you know, in stock breakdown, stock up on Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my god.
Stock up on Cyberpunk 2077.
That does bring us to the end of the Caffeine Channel News Hour. Thank you, everyone, for being here, being a part of the conversation, throwing in your comments and your questions. We just appreciate each and every one of you that are here participating, as well as the ones at home watching.
Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget, you can sign up to join the conversation and click on the star to get a notification for each time we go live. But don't go anywhere, because today is Mike Day.
Yes, and that means Coach Mike is about to take Zan through a workout, and then Zan's jumping on with some gameplay. So even though it's the end of the day for Kaisa and I, and we will see you guys tomorrow, everybody enjoyed the time with Coach Mike and Zan. For Caffeine Channel News, I am Marone.
I am Kaisa. Thank you so much for joining us, and have fun.
Bye, everybody.